Hi everybody, I'm Sarah Ockwell-Smith. Welcome to my latest SOS parenting video. Today I'd like to talk briefly about whining. So why do children whine? You know, when your kid goes, "Mummy, Daddy, please, I can't do it, Mummy, Daddy, come here, I want," you know, all the whining, which is just, I think actually if there was anything that really got to me the most when my kids were young, it wasn't the shouting or the fighting, it was the whining. Whining for me is like nails on a blackboard. I'm not going to go into why that is. That's a whole other issue that relates to going back and looking at our own childhoods and how we were raised. What I want to do is to think about why children whine and how we can reduce it a little bit. So if you think about a child who's whining, think about a time when you were a child and you were very whiny or very sulky or something. How did you feel? How do you think your child is feeling? And actually the answer here is normally very out of control, very unheard, or just, very controlled in a sense. You're not heard, not listened to by the parents or by the carers. Sometimes it was because your parents or carers were busy. Sometimes it was because they were focusing on siblings. Whatever it was, there's basically a little person there saying, I don't feel heard, and I don't feel seen, and I don't feel supported. So what they're doing is it's almost a way to make themselves feel better. They're kind of trying to work through the emotions themselves, but it's really a call for them to say, please see me, please hear me, please respond. So there is a train of thought, a very sort of behaviorist train of thought that would say, if kids whine, if kids are trying to get your attention in ways that you don't like, whether it's whining or whether they're shouting or hitting their sibling, then you should ignore them because we don't want to reward them for the whining or the violent behavior. And on the surface, that sounds correct. However, when you look underneath the surface and you think, well, why are they whining? It's because they're feeling a disconnect with you. It's because they're feeling a lack of control and autonomy. So ignoring them is actually going to make their problem even worse. They're going to feel even more unheard, even more disconnected, even more out of control. So temporarily, if you're ignoring them, you might condition them to stop whining and to be quiet, because obviously, if you don't respond, and eventually they'll stop doing it. But the thing is, that doesn't mean the root of that behavior has gone away. It's going to stay there, it's going to fester, and it's going to come out as something way more difficult and unpleasant later on. So does that mean if we respond to it that we are rewarding the behavior? Absolutely not. It basically means if we respond, we're saying, hey kiddo, I can see you're really struggling. I remember feeling like that at your age. What can I do to make things better? It doesn't mean that you're going to be permissive. It doesn't mean that you're going to drop what you're doing because you're going to go and play with them or something necessarily, though sometimes we'll talk about that in a little bit. It just basically means that you're validating them and you're saying, I see you and I hear you and I'd really like to help. That's not rewarding bad behavior. That's just basic human empathy and connection, which is ultimately at the root of all the best parenting and ultimately the root of what makes a happy, secure, confident individual as they grow. So how do you respond to whining? What I would say is I wouldn't necessarily respond to the words, particularly if they're quite unpleasant words, or maybe if they're older and it involves swearing. I'd respond to the emotions. Always respond to the emotions. So you can say, hi, sweetheart. Okay, I can see you're really struggling because mum's busy or dad's busy or whatever. Can we plan something to do in a minute? Or what I like when they're really little, because in a minute may as well be in a year to a little child, because they just don't have the abstract thought of like if something's not tangible, they just don't get it. A minute could be a year, they don't know. So unless you have something like a timer or a stopwatch that they can count down, or a sand timer, what I actually like to do is stop and say, okay, you have my attention for a minute. So if you're really busy with something, that you stop and you say, okay, you've got me for a minute. And I know that that's not very long, but what can we do for a minute to reconnect? And then when I've finished, I can have the time. If it's not about actually needing your time, it's just about needing to be heard. Again, that conversation needs to center around that. So you need to say, okay, it sounds to me that you're not feeling very heard. You're not feeling that I understand your point of view. Let's chat about it and have a bit of a family meeting, or just, a dad and son, a dad and daughter, mum and son, mum and daughter, carer and child meeting, that just helps your child to feel a little bit heard. That works particularly well if you have older children who are whining. It really, really helps then that you understand their point of view, but also that they understand your point of view. And ideally, you sort of collaboratively solve the issue and come up with a solution. And actually, even if that solution is something that they don't like, The whole process of listening to them and helping to come up with a solution normally has a really big positive impact on the whining, because at its essence, whining is all about a just child needing to be seen, needing to be heard, needing to be validated, needing to connect with you. So please don't fall down the line of, oh, this is naughty behavior, I need to ignore it, send them to their room, put them in timeout, or just blatantly say, I'm not going to listen unless you speak properly. See the emotion, not the words. Focus on the emotion, focus on that need for connection, that need for validating, and you'll find, it will start to listen naturally in time. It's not a magic cure, but when kids feel listened to, they tend to behave in ways, or they don't tend to behave in ways that grab our attention from us. Give them attention, and then they're not desperately trying to get it through whining. I hope that's helped. Thanks for tuning in. If you're interested in more, you'll find this sort of thing discussed in my Gentle Discipline book, which is just called Gentle Discipline in Canada and the USA. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.